shipyard is rather historic. In that shipyard, they constructed the world's first ironclad warship. It was converted from a wooden frigate originally named the USS Merrimack, but after the conversion, renamed the CSS, or the Confederate States Ship Virginia. The dry dock where that conversion took place, still in use today. That shipyard also built our Navy's first battleship, the USS Texas, commissioned in 1896. The Navy's BAE systems, they perform mainly government contract work. There are currently some more ships up in the yard to our right undergoing repair. Most of them are Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyers. Let's see one off in the distance to your right, hull number 109, which is the USS Jason Dunnan. There are about 60 ships of that class in operation, 160 foot across, and has a lifting capability of 55,250 long tons. The dry dock can and will accommodate any ship or vessel we point out to you on this evening's tour. That is with the exception of the aircraft carrier we'll view at the Naval Base a bit later, which, by the way, is the USS Enterprise. Made our turn now, and looking ahead of us to our right, you're going to see another private shipyard. It's off to the right side. The yard ahead of us is operated by a company called the Metro Machine Corporation. They perform mainly government contract work. Metro owns a floating dry dock named Speedy. This dry dock is not quite as large as the Titan we were just talking about. The Speedy is 750 foot in length and has a lifting capability of about 22,000 long tons. To your right alongside the dry dock is a white and gray colored barge. The hull number on that barge is APL 58. It's directly to your right. That is a barracks barge. Barges of this type are often used to house the crew off of Navy ships. Other ships are in the yard to undergo repair. You would find the same amenities aboard the barge as you'd find on board the ship. A barracks barge is currently housed in the crew off the ship in dry dock to your right. Hull number 48 is the USS Ashland. She is an amphibious assault ship classified as an LSD or landing ship docked to the Whibley Island class. Ship you'll see coming into view on the other side of the Ashland in dry dock is number 50, a sister ship to the Ashland, the USS Carter Hall. Both ships are identical. These are amphibious assault ships. They're designed to land the Marines and equipment on hostile beaches. Some of these ships accomplished by hovercraft. They carry inside what is called an interior well deck, and by a variety of helicopters may operate from the upper aft deck of these ships. Both ships are identical. They're 609 foot in length, 84 foot across their beams. They carry a crew of around 320 and accommodate approximately 400 Marines. We'll be looking at a ship identical to these at the Naval Base a bit later, which is named the USS Fort McHenry. Also, this time, look back to your right to get a chance to view the Ashland ship in dry dock. She's high and dry out of the water, has been in the dry dock now for close to 3 months undergoing some bottom repairs. The bridge located to our right is called the Berkeley Bridge, and it's also part of the bridge tunnel link between the cities of Norfolk and Portsmouth. The Berkeley Bridge to your right spans the eastern branch of the Elizabeth River, while the tunnel goes under the southern branch. It's located right behind us. To the left of the Berkeley Bridge and ahead of us, some of the redevelopment of downtown Norfolk. The tallest building on Norfolk's waterfront to your right is the bank at Hampton Roads building, which stands at 27 stories. Also to our right is the waterside Sheraton Hotel. Also to your right, you may notice a blue, white, and black paddle wheelboat with a blue and white striped awning. That's the James Eccles, one of the Elizabeth River ferries. They're used to shuttle pedestrians back and forth between the cities of Norfolk and Portsmouth. The ferry leaves the Norfolk side on the quarter and 3/4 hour, Portsmouth side on the hour and half hour. On weekends and holidays, there are 2 boats in operation, meaning the service from either side of that will be 15 minutes. And also to our right is Waterside, a marketplace, at this time housing just a few restaurants and some specialty stores. Also to our right is Waterside's municipal marina. On the outside of the wave screen, you're going to see our fleet mate, which is the American Rover, a 135-foot topsail schooner. The American is available for private charter and walk-on sailing excursions. We'll see her under sail a little later this evening on our way back in from our naval base tour. To our right, another excursion boat coming into view, the Spirit of Norfolk, set up for dinner and dance operations, offering 3-hour dinner cruises, 2-hour luncheon cruises. She's also available for private charter. Ahead of the Spirit is a large gray building which has a curved facade front that is Norfolk's World Trade Center. As the name suggests, a lot of the businesses in that building are engaged in some type of world trade. The grassy area is Norfolk's Town Point Park. The park is used extensively by the city during the warmer months of the year. Many types of activities, festivals, and concerts are held here. Most of them are free and open to the public. Beyond the park, Nauticus, which is the National Maritime Center, currently entering its 17th year of operation, a $52 million maritime museum that offers a variety of interactive exhibits, hosting traveling exhibits, home to the Hampton Roads Naval Museum, as well as to the battleship USS Wisconsin, which, by the way, we'll get a great view of here in just a couple of minutes. One of the newest additions to Norfolk's waterfront, just ahead of us on our right, is the Half Moon Cruise and Celebration Center. It's a rather unique building. It's a combination cruise ship terminal and convention center, which went into operation a little over 3 years ago. Norfolk has been hosting cruise ships for a number of years, but with the opening of this terminal, it's really enhanced their ability to accommodate ships more efficiently. Ships from Carnival Cruise Lines, Holland America, Norwegian Cruise Lines, Costa Lines, Princess Lines, and many others have all had ships calling here. Mostly these ships were offering 7 and 10 night cruises down to the eastern and western parts of the Caribbean. Some of the ships were also setting sail for Bermuda. Now, coming into view in just a few moments, when we pass this cruise ship terminal, you are going to see a very impressive U.S. warship. The ship we're about to point out to you is one of 4 Iowa-class battleships. They were, in fact, the largest battleships ever built, with the exception of 2 that were constructed by the Japanese during the Second World War. First of the Iowa-class ships constructed was BB-61, which was the USS Iowa. BB-62 was the New Jersey. BB-63, the Missouri, and the battleship we're looking at to our right this evening. The 4th and the last of the class constructed is BB-64, the battleship USS Wisconsin. The ship was built in the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard. She was commissioned on the 16th of April, 1944. All 4 of the Iowa-class ships saw action during the Second World War, including the Wisconsin, which won 5 battle stars for engagements against the Japanese. But these were large and very expensive ships to operate. When the war was over, the 4 Iowa-class ships were decommissioned. Later recommissioned during the Korean War. Then they were decommissioned. The battleship New Jersey was activated a very brief period of time during the Vietnam War, but shortly after that, decommissioned. It wasn't until the Reagan administration and the tremendous buildup of the U.S. Armed Services that the 4 Iowa-class ships were once again brought back into operation. The Wisconsin TRI was the last of the 4 to go into service. The Navy recommissioning the ship in 1986, but not before. They spent $470 million to activate her. Much of the money went to modernize the Wisconsin. After all, this is a World War II era battleship. A lot of the money went to new weapons systems, but they left aboard the ship most of the original weaponry, adding to her the ability of launching guided missiles. You would find up high on that ship's superstructure to our right 8 armor-plated boxes. Combined, the 8 boxes can contain 32 Tomahawk cruise missiles. Tomahawk is the most accurate long-range missile in the U.S. arsenal. It can be tipped with a tactical nuclear warhead with a range of 900 miles. Conventionally, our range of about 700 miles. Either way, the missile has pinpoint accuracy. She was also outfitted with 16 canisters designed to carry 16 of our Navy's anti-ship missiles called Harpoon. Harpoon is the most versatile missile system in the United States Navy, simply for the fact that this weapon is deployed on board most of the Navy's surface ships, can be launched from their submarines, as well as from some of the Navy's aircraft. No matter what platform it is launched from, Harpoon becomes a low-flying, sea-skimming missile. It is designed to fly only 15 to 20 feet above the surface of the water, making it nearly impossible for an enemy ship to detect on radar till it is right upon them. For that reason, Harpoon has a better than 95% kill rate. The missile has a range of 80 nautical miles and delivers to its target a high explosive warhead with armor-piercing capability. The ship is also outfitted with 4 Vulcan Phalanx close-in weapon systems. We'll tell you more about Vulcan Phalanx on some of the ships at the base a little later this evening. As you may have guessed, though, what the United States Navy left aboard the Iowa-class ships were the big guns. The predominantly large guns on this ship to your right are, in fact, the largest guns ever deployed on the U.S. warship. These are 16-inch 50-caliber guns. The ship carries 9 of them on board. 3 guns to a turret. There are 2 turrets forward of the ship's main structure and 1 aft. To your right, a really good view of that aft turret. The barrels on these guns are just over 60 foot in length. That is more than 2/3 the length of the tour boat you're on this evening, the Victory Rover. Each one of those barrels weigh 94 tons. Those guns having the ability of hurling a 2,500-pound projectile. That is more than the weight of a Volkswagen Beetle, 23 miles to a target with great accuracy. Smaller guns on the side superstructure of the ship are 5-inch 38 calibers. They have an effective range of 10 miles. The ship carries 12 of the 5-inch 38s. When the Iowa-class ships came back online in the 80s, they did so with an awesome array of firepower. Next to the aircraft carrier, we'll point out to you later this evening, the Wisconsin is the largest warship in port with a battle load 58,000 tons. The ship is 887 foot in length. She's 108 foot across her beam. The United States Navy had built the Iowa-class ships to those specifications, which would just barely allow that ship to transit through the locks in the Panama Canal. The locks in the Panama Canal are 1,000 foot long by 110 foot wide. That ship's 887 by 108. There's no problem transiting the locks lengthwise, but widthwise, when an Iowa-class ship like this transits through the locks in the Panama Canal, they would have only a foot of clearance on either side. At this point in time, all four of the Iowa-class ships have once again been decommissioned. They're just very large and very expensive ships to operate. Wisconsin arrived at Nauticus about 11 years ago. The ship is open to the public for tour as part of the paid admission to Nauticus, the National Maritime Center. These are condominiums that are located to your right. The structure closest to us on our right, completed about 11 years ago, or about the same time the Wisconsin arrived here in downtown Norfolk. Coming into view past this condo, you will see a second one, which was actually converted from a waterfront warehouse. The conversion took place a little over 30 years ago. Now, I'd like to direct your attention further inshore to your right. Beyond both these condominiums, inshore back among the trees, a three-story white home will come into view. The home I'm trying to point out to you will have two large white chimneys, a black roof. Some of the windows have black shutters around them. And right behind the small marina located to your right, that's the old Selden estate. It was done by Dr. Selden. He was the Confederate Surgeon General. He and Robert E. Lee were good friends. When Lee was in Norfolk, he would often stay at Selden's home. But during the Union Army's occupation of Norfolk in the Civil War, the home to your right was also used as Union headquarters. Also to our right, a complex of white buildings with blue trim, making up the headquarters of the Atlantic Marine Center as part of NOAA. NOAA is the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. At that facility, they map and chart. And if you look closely at these two ships ahead of us on our left, you will note that they have red, white, and blue bandings that are painted around their stacks, which denote or indicate these are both government-owned cargo ships that are under the jurisdiction of the Federal Maritime Administration. The Federal Maritime Administration maintains a fleet of about 50 or so non-combatant or cargo ships that are maintained in a reduced operational status. These are ships that could be activated during an emergency or time of war to supplement our military in transporting a vast array of military hardware and equipment. For the two ships ahead of us to our left, they're often referred to as ro-ro ships. The term ro-ro referring to a large roll-on, roll-off ramp on the stern of each ship, and the ramps are lowered to a dock that permits them to drive on or off a variety of mechanized equipment and machinery. They said here in a 5-day operational status, it basically means if the ships are ever needed during an emergency or time of war, within 5 days notification, they can be fully crewed and ready to sail. We also find it interesting that the two ships to your left were initially owned by the government of Saudi Arabia. Surface ships on the piers to the right, we're now passing. It's been here for a long time. The pier we just passed dates back to 1961. The one a bit further ahead of us all the way back to 1941. And these are general merchandising piers. They're designed to accommodate what are called general and break bulk type cargo ships. And these are ships that handle cargo that is usually just too large to go inside containers or as heavy equipment and machinery. Now in comparison, if you look to your left, you'll see the Virginia Port Authority closed that facility down for handling containerized cargo. In the near future, they'll be basically redoing this facility to handle general and break bulk type cargo ships like the facility to your right. The containerized cargo that was once going here was now been redirected to a new container facility located further ahead of us to our left, which is called APM. Ships on the north side, but this ship is in what they call the lay berth. We'll have to move her to the other side of the pier before they can begin actual loading. I will tell you though, when the ship leaves here, probably within the next day or so, and she gets fully loaded with coal, all of that red paint on the sides of that ship will set below the surface of the water. That's when that ship is fully loaded. Now, as the collier on the opposite side of the pier that they are still loading at this time, she probably is very close to being fully loaded and will be departing from the pier. In the next couple of minutes, we're going to leave the Elizabeth River, which is located behind us. Ahead of us, ladies and gentlemen, is Hampton Roads, one of the largest and finest natural harbors in the world. Hampton Roads is approximately 4 to 5 miles wide, about 12 miles long. It's been said that every ship in the world could anchor in Hampton Roads and its tributaries at the same time, and there would be room for more. This is also the way into the ocean, the Hampton Roads, the Chesapeake Bay, and eventually into the Atlantic. Hampton Roads covers an area of about 60 square miles and is formed by the merging of 4 rivers. They are the James River, the Lafayette, the Aspen, and the Elizabeth Rivers. The English discovered Hampton Roads in the early 1600s. At that time, it was called the Earl of Southampton's roadstead. The word roadstead in Old English, meaning large anchorage. The name has not been changed, but over the years, it has simply been shortened to Hampton Roads. At this time, we're leaving the Elizabeth River, which is behind us. Off to your right and just ahead of us to our right is the mouth of the Lafayette River. And in the distance ahead of us and to our left are the mouths of the Nansemond and the James Rivers. It's also through the waters that we're sailing upon this evening that just over 404 years ago, Captain John Smith, Captain Christopher the same pipeline we pointed out to you earlier this evening in the dredging operation here at the Naval. One of the dredging schools on that side of the Columbia pipeline directly into this area. The Port of Virginia is very fortunate to have such a convenient place to dispose of dredging schools. Most ports have to carry this school out to sea. In many cases, you can find places further inland to dispose of them, which can be rather costly. The dredges have opted in this harbor to not only hook up this diversion pipeline and pump this school of Norfolk International Terminals coming up on your right and ahead of us is the largest naval operating base in the world. This is Naval Base Norfolk, Virginia. The base was established here in 1919. It was built on a point of land known as Sewell's Point. Present day, it occupies about 3,400 acres and is home to about 90 warships. There's more than 100,000 men and women that call Norfolk to port, and adjacent to the base, to further ensure the White Naval Air Station, there's about 150 aircraft that are stationed here as well. The piers that are coming up on our right and ahead of us are often referred to as DNS, or the destroyer and submarine piers. And the piers out here are numerically numbered. The first pier at the base ahead of us, Pier 1. We're not going to see these ships on Pier 1 today, but if you move up to Pier 2, the second pier at the base, we'll see 4 ships on Pier 2. The 4 ships on that pier will represent 2 different classes of surface ships serving in the United States Navy, which have been equipped with the world's most advanced naval weapon system, which is called Aegis. The word itself, Aegis, is a Greek word meaning shield. The shield referred to on these ships is a superior air defense system. The primary function or goal of the Aegis-equipped ship is to escort and defend the battle group of airstrike. In reality, Aegis is a fast-action digital computer defense system. And at the heart of the system, the ships that have it carry on board a new type of radar system called phased-array or Spy-1 radar. The Spy-1 radar is very different from conventional radar systems because it is a fixed or stationary radar. This time, if you'll direct your attention to the upper structures of the 4 ships on Pier 2, on your upper structures you'll be able to locate what looks like 8-sided or octagon-shaped plates. These plates should be fairly easy for you to identify. They are slightly lighter gray in color than the surrounding area. If you're looking at those 8-sided plates, you're looking at a phased array or Spy-1 radar. Now, because it's a fixed or stationary radar system, each of these Aegis-equipped ships require 4 of those on board, but they're situated so they'll emit signals in a 360-degree radius completely around the ship. The phased array radar allows the Aegis system to track over 500 targets at the same time. Now, while tracking all these targets, these ships can keep tabs on friendly aircraft and friendly ships that operate within their vicinity. And at the same time, they can also determine those targets that are considered to be hostile. Once a target's been verified as hostile, the Aegis has the ability of selecting an appropriate weapon and then launching that weapon to engage and destroy the threat. By the way, the entire process takes only fractions of a second, which is rather amazing. Now, on the 4 ships on this pier, 3 of the 4 ships are Burr-class guided missile destroyers. On this side of Pier 2, you'll see a ship closer to us, number 55, stern facing in our direction. That's the USS Stout. Out of the Stout, we're going to see another Burr-class guided missile destroyer, which is the USS Beery. The Beery just returned Friday from a 6-month deployment with the Enterprise battle group. On the opposite side of the pier is another Burr-class guided missile destroyer, the number 75 named the Naval. Those 3 ships I just pointed out to you are Burr-class guided missile destroyers. There are currently 60 or so of these ships in operation. They do make up the largest percentage of surface ships that we'll see out the base this evening, and they are Aegis equipped. The ship you'll see on the opposite side of that pier, but further inshore to the right, is the USS San Jacinto. That is a Ticonderoga-class cruiser. They were the first ships in our Navy to be equipped with this system. They were coming online back in the late 80s to the 90s. Our Navy built 27 of them. There are 22 of the 27 that still remain in operation. And again, those 3 or 4 ships on the pier are all of Aegis-equipped ships. Now, as I mentioned, their primary function is to engage and destroy aircraft, but they're versatile ships. They can easily engage and destroy land-based targets and attack those targets with pinpoint accuracy using a Tomahawk cruise missile. They can also engage and destroy enemy surface ships and submarines, but they specialize in air defense. These ships are heavily armed. They do carry an array of weapons and missile systems on board. The gun mounts you'll see on the ships to our right, particularly up on the bow, those are 5-inch 54 caliber guns, which have an effective range of about 13.5 miles. The mounts are capable of pumping out over 20 rounds per minute. The weight of the 5-inch 54 projectile is about 70 pounds. These ships carry a second gun system aboard called Vulcan Failing, so we'll tell you more about it in just a few moments. In addition to the guns, they do carry an array of missile systems, and on these ships you will find it interesting. Most of the weaponry is launched in what is called VLS, or vertical launch systems. Simply put, the missiles are situated in vertical silos below the ship's main deck. On the early berths to our right, between 2 VLS launchers, these ships will carry up to about 90 missiles in vertical silos. Having the missiles situated in vertical silos allow the ships a rapid offload of many types of missiles at the same time, thus enabling them to engage and destroy many different targets at once. This greatly increases their survivability as well as their capability to defend the ships within the surrounding battle group. The most important weapon deployed from an Aegis-equipped ship is the SN2 Block 3 standard surface-to-air missile that allows these ships to engage and destroy high-performance aircraft or incoming missiles at distance of about 75 miles out. It can strike land-based targets at a great distance with pinpoint accuracy using the Tomahawk cruise missile, engage and destroy enemy surface ships well over the horizon with a low-flying sea-skimming missile called Harpoon. These ships also have excellent anti-submarine warfare capabilities on board them, the Mark 46 torpedo system. They can also launch from the aft deck of these ships helicopters that can assist them in detecting, locating, and destroying the enemy submarine. Now, these ships do carry a second gun system on board, and I'm going to try and point that gun system out to you on board the number 75, which is the Donald Cook. There's a ship on the other side of the pier at this end. Get a great view of the forward structure of the Donald Cook. You'll notice the bridge pier to base, which is now coming into view to your right, is often referred to as the submarine pier. In Norfolk, Virginia, we have only attack submarines on board here. Our Navy's larger subs that carry ballistic missiles are stationed to the south of us here on the East Coast out of Kings Bay, Georgia. There are two submarines on Pier 3 to our right. There's a sub on this side of the pier about midway down, and one of her sister ships is on the opposite side, about the same location on the pier, but on the other side. These are both 688 or Los Angeles class fast attack submarines. They're among the newest and finest to be added to the U.S. fleet, considered to be super high speed, super wide and deep diving. These submarines are 360 foot in length, 33 foot across their beams, and would carry a crew of 127. They're all powered by one atomic reactor. The core and the reactors will power them for 20 years or longer between refuelings, equivalent to a distance of about 1 million miles in steaming time. Speed on the surface of 20 knots, and dive 30 knots plus top speed is classified information if you did not know, and knots equal to about 1 1/8 of a mile an hour. The primary function of the attack submarine would be to engage and destroy the enemy submarine, but these are all versatile warships. On board, they carry the Tomahawk cruise missile, allowing these subs to strike land-based targets at a great distance with pinpoint accuracy. They also can engage the enemy surface ship over the horizon with that low-flying sea-skimming missile called Harpoon. But if they were to engage the enemy submarine on board them, the world's most advanced torpedo system, and it's called a Mark, which is identical to the other early birds we pointed out to you earlier. Directly hit the lagoon, we'll see a ship that is a Ticonderoga class cruiser. Hull number 55 is the USS Leyte Golf, and that ship also just returned last Friday from a 6-month deployment with the aircraft carrier Enterprise battle group. She looks like she's in kind of need of a paint job. That's what happens when these ships are deployed sometimes for 6 months. Now that doing regular maintenance on them as far as like on the exterior of the ship with walls and such. On the opposite side of the pier from the Leyte Golf is a much smaller ship. She's well inshore to our right, but on the other side of the pier, that's a Perry class guided missile frigate. The name of that ship is the USS Nicholas. There are a little over 20 of those ships in operation today. They were built back in the late 70s to the 80s, and the Navy's phasing those ships out of service. Those that are in service now, like the Nicholas, are used primarily in training and also in law enforcement. On the left side of the pier, you'll see a much larger ship. Number 21 is the hull number. Her name is the USS New York, and she is the 5th of the Navy's new San Antonio class LPDs or landing platform docks. This is the newest type of amphibious assault ship serving in the United States Navy. The New York was built at Ingalls Shipyard in Pascagoula, Mississippi. She's a fairly new ship, commissioned only about 2 years ago, and during her construction, approximately 7.5 tons of recycled steel from the World Trade Center Ground Zero was incorporated into the bow staff on the USS New York. This ship will land the Marines and equip them on hostile beaches by hovercraft she carries inside a well deck, and also by a variety of aircraft that can operate from her flight deck. We'll tell you a little bit more in detail about how these amphibious assault ships actually operate in a few minutes. The New York to your right is 684 foot long. She is 105 foot across her beam. Carries a crew of 361. She will accommodate about 800 Marines. The two really unusual looking superstructures on the ship are called Advanced Enclosed Mass Systems. This is the first class of ship the Navy has actually incorporated this design into their construction. A couple of principles involved with the design. The first principle is to protect from the weather. A lot of the ship's sensor gathering equipment, radar systems, communication systems, and other systems used for gathering information. When this equipment is protected from the weather, it doesn't have to be serviced or replaced nearly as often. Second feature, stealthing technology, which we'll tell you a little bit more about in a few minutes. Now you look at the flag displayed on the bow of the New York. That flag flag is displayed on the bow of all of our ships out of the base this evening. It's called the Jack flag, or Naval Jack. And this particular Jack went up on all of our ships 1 year to the date after the attack on the World Trade Center. It's a flag that dates all the way back to the Revolutionary War. It is called the Culpeper Minuteman flag. The 13 stripes on the flag that signify the 13 original colonies. Running diagonally through the flag is a rattlesnake, which is indigenous to the United States. And at the bottom of that flag are the words, "Don't tread on me." 4 ships on the next pier. 3 of them are early berths. Again, we're going to see more of these out of the base than any other ship. There's over 60 of them in service, making up the largest percentage of service ships in the fleet. Closest to us, the number 74 is the USS McFall. Behind the McFall, we'll see another early berth, which is the USS Ross. On the left side of the pier, number 66 is the USS Gonzales. The 4th ship on the pier is on the left side behind the number 66, the Peary-class frigate, which I believe is the USS Kaufman. We're not going to get a really good view of any of the Peary frigates out of the base. There's 3 of them out here this evening. Again, these are ships that were going into operation in the late 70s to the 80s, initially used to be used in escort operations. They were armed with a medium-range standard surface-to-air missile. That missile system's been removed from these ships. They're now used primarily in training and also in law enforcement. The early berths are really easy ships to identify. If you just look at the superstructures on these ships, there's 3 on that pier to the right, another one ahead of us on our right, number 78 and a quarter. The superstructures of these ships are built entirely of angles and sloping surfaces, and there are a couple of reasons for this. For the first class of ship, surface ship, since the Second World War, it's been built for the United States Navy. It's been built entirely of steel. The other surface ships out of the base, their hulls are built of steel, but their superstructures are built of aluminum. The early berths are all steel-built warships. The structures of these ships were slanted inward to help lower the ship's center of gravity. In doing so, they have also created stealthing technology, which has to do with radar evasion. When a radar signal strikes an angled or sloping surface, the signal is deflected off at an angle rather than directly back to its center. These ships from a distance do not light up or present to be as big a target on radar as the ship that has all flat or square surfaces. Number 78 is a quarter. She's an early berth class guided missile destroyer. The ship on the left side of the pier, much larger in size, is a landing ship Docker LSD, the Wiggly Island class. Her name is the Fort McHenry, and she's identical to 2 ships of the same class we pointed out to you earlier this evening. That was in the beginning of the tour. One was actually setting in a floating drawdock named the Ashland. In just a few moments, we're going to go into great detail about how these assault ships actually operate. Directly ahead of the Fort McHenry, there's another early berth class guided missile destroyer. She's inshore, and on the left side of the pier, she also just returned on Friday with the Enterprise battle group. The name of that ship is the USS Norfolk. On the next pier coming up, 3 more early berths. The one closest to us is the early berth. She was the lead ship of the class. For that reason, the class's ship was named for her. Built in Bath, Maine at Bath Iron Works and commissioned on the 4th of July, 1991. The first of over 60 ships in the class to be constructed. And ahead of the early berth, we will see another one, which is the USS Mahan, one of her sister ships. Again, these ships are easy to identify. A much larger ship on the opposite side of that pier is hull number 3. Her name is USS Kearsarge. She is the 3rd of our Navy's LHDs, or landing helicopter docking ships to be constructed. Total, there are 8 ships of this class in operation, and they are considered the largest amphibious assault ships in the world. Their mission is to land the Marines and a tremendous amount of equipment and mechanized equipment on hostile beaches during amphibious assaults. And on ships like this, it is accomplished by 2 modes of transportation. Inside of the Kearsarge, there is a tremendous area in the ship called a well deck, which they have the ability to flood with water. When a well deck is flooded, it would cause the stern of that ship to sink down an additional 12 to 13 feet. That then allows them to open a door right on the stern of the Kearsarge called a stern gate. With the gate open and the well deck flooded, they may float in and out of the ship's well deck a variety of landing craft and also what are called LCACs. LCACs are air cushion vehicles that ride on a cushion of air right above the surface of the water. The LCACs have great advantages over the Navy's traditional landing craft. The LCACs are highly maneuverable. They're very fast, but the great advantage they have is when those LCACs hit the beach, they can continue to glide on that cushion of air right over land. Theoretically, the Marines ride them into the beaches and won't even have to get their boots wet. In addition to that, this ship to your right will carry between 35 to 40 aircraft, ranging from a variety of attack and transport helicopters, right on down to 4 Harriers that can be carried aboard the Kearsarge. Harriers are pistol aircraft. They're jump jets. They have the ability of vertical liftoff, therefore they would not require a catapulting system to be launched from the flight deck. The Kearsarge is a big ship. It's battle load 40,000 tons. It makes for the approximate size of an SS-class World War II aircraft carrier. 844 foot long. She is 105 foot across her beam. Means the Kearsarge is Panamax, so she can't travel to the Panama Canal. The ship carries a crew of about 1,100. She will accommodate almost 1,900 Marines. And you'll find this rather amazing on these ships. Well, ships like the Kearsarge have extensive medical facilities aboard. On board that ship is a 600-bed hospital. The United States Marines had a great deal of input into the design and construction of these large LHDs and landing helicopter docking ships. They're also great humanitarian ships, and many of the recent disasters that have happened, going back to the tsunami that struck Indonesia several years ago, to Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans, the earthquake in Haiti, to the recent disasters in Japan, our Navy has always deployed ships to this type of this region to assist. Of course, they have medical facilities aboard, and helicopters to move and medevac people. If you look closely, you'll notice there's an anchor down and an anchor up on the Kearsarge. The anchor that's up over here on the starboard side of the ship, look closely, it's painted golden color. That ship has won the Golden Anchor Award. To win the Golden Anchor Award, you have to have 100% retention of the entire crew aboard that ship, a crew of about 1,100. So for those crew members on this ship that have options, maybe to move to a shore station or maybe go to another ship or another point of duty, they have all opted to remain on board that ship, and it's very hard for a ship with 1,100 crew members to achieve this goal. The Golden Anchor Award for the Kearsarge is the only ship out of the base that we'll see this evening with that award. To our right, we're also going to see the Fleet and Industrial Supply Center. That's a huge tan and brown colored building to our right. Their motto is service to the fleet. They've been doing it here since 1919. Next on our right is Pier 8 coming up, the warehouse pier. There are no ships on this side of Pier 8, but if you look above the warehouse on the other side, you will see these superstructures of two Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyers. The ship out of this end of the pier on the opposite side, you can see her stern coming into view. That's the USS Nitsa, hull number 94. Ahead of the Nitsa and further and short of the right, the superstructure on the other ship belongs to that of the USS Cole. As you may recall, that ship was involved in a terrorist attack that took place in the Cole in Hampton, Yemen in the year 2000. And we can't get a good look at the Cole looking at it from this angle, but after we finish doing the tour of the base, left side of the pier, you'll see two more of the newer Arleigh Burkes. Further and short of the right, the number 79. On the opposite side of that pier is the USS Oscar Austin. Closer to us, number 81 is the USS Winston Churchill. These ships have been given upgraded weapons and electronics on board. Let's point one of those upgraded weapons out to you on the number 81, the Winston Churchill. The gun mount on most of the other ships out of the base has been a 5-inch 54 that has an effective range of 13.5 miles. The gun mount on the bow of the 81 is a little different. It's called a 5-inch 62 caliber gun. That gun is capable of using what is called an extended range guided ammunition. When the projectile leaves the barrel of that gun, it is propelled by a rocket propellant. 3 small fins will pop out on the side of the projectile to guide it, guided by GPS or global positioning system, giving the projectile pinpoint accuracy. That small deck gun on the bow of the Winston Churchill has an incredible range of about 50 miles. It's called a 5-inch 62. On the side of the next pier, we'll see two more ships. The smaller one and short of the right, behind the number 15, is the USS Elrod, a Peary-class frigate. Number 15 closer to us is a 1970s version of the Navy LPD, or landing platform dock. That ship is USS Ponce. She carries the same classification as the New York we pointed out to you a few minutes ago. But what a difference between the 1970s LPD and one of the very modern LPDs of the San Antonio class, like the New York. Much larger ship on the opposite side of the pier, number 7, is USS Iwo Jima. Iwo Jima is identical to the Kearsarge we pointed out to you a few minutes ago. Again, there are 8 ships of this class in operation, and they're considered the largest amphibious assault ships in the world. We're going to see 4 more ships out of the base. The next pier coming up on our right ahead of us is Pier 11. That's also the newest pier out here. And on the opposite side of Pier 11, and short of the right, is a Ticonderoga-class cruiser. You see the ship's superstructure above the pier. That is number 72, the USS Belladonna. Even further ahead of us here, right on this side of Pier 12, next pier past this one, is an Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyer, which is the USS James Williams. And ladies and gentlemen, the very large ship you'll see on this side of Pier 14 is also one of the largest and one of the mightiest warships in the world. She is a class of her own. Number 65 ahead of us to your right is the USS Enterprise. She was the only one of this class ever constructed. The keel was laid on the Enterprise in 1958. She became a commissioned U.S. warship in 1961, which means that this year the Enterprise is turning 50 years old. She was the Navy's first atomic-powered carrier, and at the present time, the Navy's oldest in operation. 50 years old again this year. Built in the Newport News Shipbuilding and Drydock Corporation. When the Navy built the Enterprise, you have to go all the way back to late 50s technology. The only experience that our Navy had with nuclear propulsion at that time were the reactor units they were putting aboard their submarines. They were not particularly large reactors. The Navy built to get the required power output to operate a ship the size of the Enterprise. They had to build her with 8 separate reactors. So that ship to your right has 8 separate reactor plants on board. The Navy's newer Nimitz-class ships just have 2 larger reactors, but that ship to your right has 8 reactor plants. The Navy also classified their aircraft carriers that are over 1,000 foot in length as a super carrier in the surface of the water. Channel depths in this harbor run between 45 to 55 foot deep. This ship will carry several million gallons of fuel aboard. She refuels a lot of the fleet to go to sea with her, as well as all the aircraft that she carries. Technically, Enterprise carries between 90 to 100 tactical aircraft, but more than likely, when the ship is deployed, she puts to sea with about 75 to 80 aircraft, depending on the type and size that they're using. Aircraft aboard the Enterprise are launched into the air by the use of steam catapults at the speeds of up to 160 miles an hour. They're very capable on the ship of launching their first aircraft in 1 minute, one every 15 seconds thereafter. She carries 4 of the steam catapults. She is also equipped with 4 flight elevators. At this time, we're looking down the starboard or right-hand side of the Enterprise. You'll notice on this side of the ship, it may be a little hard to see from this angle, but the 3 large oval openings in the side of the ship on this side. Those openings are entrances to the hangar deck where the aircraft is stored out of the weather. Below each one of those openings, there is a flight elevator. It looks like a large platform that hangs off the side of the ship and over the dock. There are 3 of those elevators on this side of the ship, and there's one on the other side. The elevators are, of course, used to bring aircraft from the hangar deck to the flight deck. They can do so in aircraft about every 7 seconds. For what it may be worth, the elevators on the ship are built of aluminum. If you were to take the 4 aluminum elevators off of the Enterprise and were to recycle all of that aluminum into soda cans, you can link those cans from Norfolk, Virginia to Boston, Massachusetts. Enterprise, as we already mentioned, is an atomic-powered ship powered by 8 separate reactor units. And the reactors on the ship are designed to do one thing, and that is to generate steam. Most of that steam is used to turn the 4 steam turbines on the ship that, when combined, are capable of generating 280,000 shaft horsepower. You'll find it hard to believe the ship to your right having a top speed of well over 40 miles an hour. It looks impossible to push anything that large through the air resistance that fast, much less through the water resistance. With the air wing aboard, she carries a crew of about 5,600. With a crew of 5,600, it means that on board that ship, serving around 17,000 meals a day. How would you like to get stuck with washing those dishes? Other than that, how would you like to pay for the grocery bill? I got news for you. If you do, if you're curious, the grocery bill on that ship runs over $1 million a month. A complete city within herself. The ship carries practically everything aboard anyone could ever ask for. We used to say except women, but that's not true anymore. About 17 years ago, our Navy started to assign women aboard ships to carry a combat status. Carriers like the Enterprise have at least 500 or more women living and working aboard them, performing the same task and duties aboard the ship as their male counterparts. On this ship, you'll find banks, barber shops, butcher shops, bakeries, shoe repair shops, a hospital, dental offices, operating rooms, a religious chapel. For the most part, air-conditioned throughout for the comfort of the crew. If this ship were to go to the West Coast, she would have to sail around South America. She's much too wide and too long to pass through the Panama Canal. This ship was commissioned in 1961. When she was built, the cost of construction was only $750 million. The Navy's newest commissioned carrier in service is the George H.W. Bush, commissioned a little over 2 years ago. She's the last of the Nimitz-class ships built. Price tag on the George H.W. Bush, just over $6 billion. Boy, what a difference since 1961 when the ship was built in present-day carriers. But the carriers like the Enterprise, the Nimitz-class ships, they're considered the largest and mightiest warships in the world, with battle loads on the Enterprise. It's about a 96,000-ton warship, or you could say 96,000 tons of diplomacy. Last ship we'll see at the base on the north side of Pier 14 is the lead ship of the San Antonio class LPDs on landing platform docks. That is number 17, the San Antonio. She's identical to the USS New York we pointed out a few minutes ago. Again, this is the newest type Mediterranean Sea as well as in the Arabian Sea. Let's direct your attention off in the distance to your right on the other side of the right. We'll do our best to answer those questions for you. We're glad you joined us. Hope you have a good